Hi, I'm Maddie from Quiltsmart. Today I'm going to show you how to do our Lone Star. This is a tried and true pattern for us, and it just has a wonderful, wonderful outcome. You will get perfect matching and perfect points, and that's just so cool with the Lone Star. There's also a little variation, a new cool variation that we're going to show you at the end. So enjoy. So what we're going to do is first put down our first rectangle. And that corner there is going to be right at the bottom dot. Then our second rectangle is going to go at that arrow and at the top dot. And you're going to have it just scooched right between the dotted lines. Give it a little squirt of steam to hold it in place and flip it over. And just sew on that line between the dots, dot to dot. And you flip this over, and I've sewn in black thread, by the way. I wouldn't do that on my project, but I thought that you could see it better. So we were just going to flip that, the interfacing back, and cut a nice seam allowance with the rotary cutter. And the reason I do this is because I'm using a white and red, and I want a nice clean edge on this, for the seam. Then we're going to flip it over. Now you always want to go between the dashed dotted lines, right between there, and do a good finger press on that seam. You can see the nice angle starting to form. And just press that in between your lines. Take your next piece and align it with the dot at the top and the arrow. The dot and the arrow are across from each other. So if you can't see one, you should be able to see the other. Have a little bit of the dotted line showing. Give it a splash of steam to hold it in place. Flip it over. And stitch again from dot to dot. This is such a cool method because you're just going to keep repeating what you do from rectangle to rectangle for the whole row. And this is a quilt. If you're a beginner, don't be afraid to do this quilt with the Quiltsmart method. It's a nice, easy method. So we're going to peel that back and trim it again with the rotary cutter. And I'm just using the edge of the template. That you can use this little template to cut your rectangles, and it's also good if you want to fussy cut a little sunflower or something like that in the middle of your rectangle. Again, a good finger press, and then press with the iron in between the dotted lines. You can see how the diamonds are forming. If you do have dark thread, clip that off as you go along. Again, we're putting the next piece down just the same way we did before. Flip it over. Stitch from dot to dot. See how easy this is? I like to use a 2.0 stitch, and I don't back stitch. Now we're going to just peel that back just like we did before. The same steps. Use the rotary cutter and the template to the ruler to get a nice clean seam. Peel it back, nice finger press. You can see those beautiful diamonds. And then a press again between the dotted lines. You're always going to want to put that between the lines. So now we're going to put the column 2 fabric down, which happens to be fabric 2, at the dot, the bottom dot of the line that has the 2 dots at the end of it, and then we'll fuse it down between the lines again. You're going to form a little gap between the rows. And now for the second piece, you see the arrow. Find the arrow and the dot across from it. Lay your piece down. Give it a little shot of steam just to hold it in place. Don't really nail it down there, just a little one. Flip it and stitch between the dots. You can see how fast this is going too. Now you're going to peel that back and cut it off just like we did before. A lot of the steps are repeated, which makes it an easy quilt to do. Again, a really good finger press. Line it up just like before. Little shot of steam. The gap, you want to have that. That's a good thing. It'll make for easier folding later. And stitch from dot to dot. Peel it back, flip it over, cut a nice clean seam allowance. Now this is a 2-color quilt, so the fabric red and white there's only 2 colors, 2 numbers, but they're being used for fabrics 1, 2, 3, and 4, and in a bigger quilt for fabrics 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so dot, arrow, squirt of steam, hold in place, flip it over, and stitch from dot to dot. Now, if you want to check underneath. Sometimes the little rectangle might flip over, and you don't want to do that. So that's what just happened there. Just check underneath so it's nice and smooth. Peel it back just like before. And trim it. Nice finger press, and position your fabrics right between the dotted lines, and then fuse. Clean out those dark threads if you have any, but yours would probably be white. I would use white on this quilt if I was making it for myself and not for a demo. Now you're going to fold right on that dotted line, and that's an important part for the matching. And then you're going to stitch on the solid line. Now I would generally not do those seams until I've done the whole thing, but for demo purposes I thought I'd do it right now. And I'm just stitching on the solid line all the way down. Excited to see my matching, because you are going to get perfect matching with this. When you don't, and if you don't, it's probably because you needed to press a little bit better or to fold on the solid line. Those are the 2 best tips for this quilt. Do a really good job pressing, finger pressing, and folding right on the fold line, which is a little dotted line. And just stitch to the end. and open it up excitedly. Oh, look at that. That is like too cool. You're going to be excited every time you open up your seams and see how absolutely beautiful they match.